Hello, hello. We are back again. It is another day. It is another sports card video. How are we doing, guys?
I feel pretty good, too. I think I finally got some sleep.
I hope all of you are doing amazingly well. I'm excited. I've got Brian Dwyer, the president of Robert Edward Auctions, coming on the show for a live stream tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, so make sure that you do not miss it. Today, I'm sharing a collaboration. I've done episode 3 of Dinged Corners with Rob, Sports Card Therapist. We're going to see if we can bring out more of these types of long form episodes as well. And like I had said a couple of days ago, Rob is going to be providing also unique content that is only going to be on this channel. Of course, he's going to have his own stuff on his channel, but he's also going to be providing unique content, share his thoughts on specific stuff over the next few weeks. So it's really fun collab. I want to see where it goes there with Rob, and other content creators will be doing the same. So we've got a lot cooking. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. There's going to be a lot of content on this channel, more so than usual. It's going to be very diverse in kind of how we have it going on.
Would you look at that?
Yeah, there's a few more blemishes on the car.
Oh my gosh, just look at it.
The car is not perfect.
Just look at it.
So definitely subscribe, hit the notification bell if you do like what you hear, because it will be coming and you don't want to miss an episode. Before I get started, big thanks to video sponsor COMC.com, your home for buying, selling, and flipping all the hottest trading cards. Their consignment marketplace, now home to more than 30 million trading cards, from baseball superstars like Aaron Judge to Marvel favorites like Spider-Man. COMC has something for every type of collector, so make sure to visit COMC.com today to build out your collection with your favorite cards. COMC.com, it's a fun place, especially just buying, selling, doing all the flipping stuff. It's a good time. All right, today's episode, will my cards be worth anything in the future? And this is something that I know if you're a true collector, and there's certain things that, like I pointed out, I've got a couple of cards. I actually found this, a viewer sent this to me. So I've got the Bobby Hebert rookie card, or some pointed out he might have a USFL card. Might not be his actual rookie, but 86 tops, and usually my face when I wake up in the morning and just think about life. But also a fan sent me this, to Dustin, Bobby Hebert, signed, 86 tops. So cool. Anyway, for many of us, cards are a store of value. So we do collect certain things like that, where it's like, hey, I don't know if I'm seeing a catalyst to where Bobby Hebert cards all of a sudden catch fire, but we do have specific cards a lot of times, and it might only be a handful of cards in your collection where you're like, you know what? I would like to see a little bit of growth over time on these. You're kind of strategically buying them as a store of value. Nowadays in the hobby, there is a lot of money wrapped up in sports cards collectibles. A lot of money wrapped up in cardboard these days, and we see it. We talk about it all the time with up-and-coming prospects. Today's up-and-coming prospects have cards that can get into the 6 figures. Sometimes there's modern cards even in the 7 figures. If we're looking at a Luka Doncic or a Mike Trout, for example, I mean, there are some absolute monster cards on really unproven guys. For many, I think they look at that part of the market as a potential bubble, and I can't really fault anybody for thinking that. The reality is that most of these folks are not going to be Hall of Famers, and most of those are not going to be GOATs. So there is a lot of speculation going on in the sports card hobby today. It's fun, but I think we also have to be mindful of that as we are spending our hard-earned dollars. So let's go ahead and get into the conversation with Rob. Go ahead, guys. That was the cue. That was the cue, Frank.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the new 3-part series that we are calling Dinged Corners with Sports Card Dad and Sports Card Therapist. That's a lot of sports card in there. Reminding you that there's no perfect way to collect. He's Dustin. I'm Rob. Dustin, man, episode 3. Will my cards have value in the future? How's it going, man?
Wow. It's going good. Yeah, it's going great.
I've been feeling good the first couple weeks of episodes that we've done. I know we've gotten some good feedback. It's been, I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good about, everything that we got going on here, man. I feel like we're covering some great topics.
I agree. Yeah, no, I think that, you came up with a lot of the stuff as far as kind of getting it going. So yeah, this has been awesome.
Listen, this is 50-50 here, man. So if this crashes and burns, you're taking half the blame. Okay.
I tried to flip it back onto Rob there, so in case it does crash and burn. I was in on it too, but I was just trying to push it to the side there.
Exactly. But yeah, man, we spent, episode 1 talking a lot about why do we collect, right? When we talked about, nostalgia, we talked about how it's like one part of our life we feel like we do have control over. And then episode 2, we talked about what do we collect and what really makes up our collecting experience. Who are the players or teams or even themes that we have throughout our collecting. So episode 3, a natural, progression kind of, I feel like, is talking about what the market is looking like today and really the outlook in the future and will my cards have value in the future? Because I know in the 90s when we were collecting, we all thought that those cards in the 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s, were going to be worth big money.
Yeah, agreed. And I think our parents did too. I mean, I think there was like there was an overall, push for that just based on, the 50s and 60s cards kind of gaining more, I would say gaining value, but also just, more attention. And then it was like, okay, this is the next wave. The next generation was there to take advantage.
Yeah. And so we didn't realize it. We had no idea, but that was the junk wax era. And, I know we've heard the Cousins Collectibles refer to it as nostalgia wax, but let's call it what it is. It was junk wax. I mean, you look at I think the most graded card of all time is the 89 Griffey Upper Deck. It's PSA is the most graded card of all time at any given time. That's probably the most important card of that generation. Maybe other than maybe Jordan rookie. I don't know. We could talk about that, but and you could buy one for $50 anywhere, the Griffey, so right. It's like, so what I'm wondering is, are we living in the junk slab era right now with how many cards have gotten slabbed? I mean, when the grading fee for a lot of these cards is $20, but I can go out and buy a PSA 9 of a player for $10. Someone's losing money there. There's something is going on here.
Well, I think too, before we so you were talking about junk wax and moved over to junk slab. I think kind of the danger that we have nowadays is, I don't know from a print run standpoint, because we don't necessarily know what it was in 1990 compared to what it is today across all the products. But we do know that they're increasing print runs on a lot of the popular products. But the thing that is the same today as it was back in 1990 is a very small number of players will be relevant as far as big money goes down the line. So as far as, I mean, even like a guy that we had talked about, Greg Maddux, one of the best pitchers of all time, he's not exactly, cardboard royalty, or, Randy Johnson, some of these legends, they don't necessarily, or, one of your guys, John Stockton, he's an all-time great, but his prices don't really reflect that, but the danger today is that now you have, a variety of different rookie cards, and they're all over the place from a price point perspective. And, what percentage of these guys are going to be not even just the John Stocktons or the Greg Maddoxes, but just fall completely short of any of that. Just don't even have that career. And so there's a lot more money, that's been poured in. Back then, as you said, you get an 89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card raw, it's $50, and that was really like the big guy back then. Now you could spend 6 figures on today's Ken Griffey Jr., whoever that is, Juan Soto, or, whoever that is, take your pick. So the stakes are a lot higher now is how I view it for new kind of modern players. And to your point about, the junk slab era, it does does it reach a point where it's almost like if the card is not in a slab, then, does it carry relevance? It's almost like, it's got to be in a slab for anyone to pay any particular attention to it. I think it eventually leads to just people are going to care less about which slab it's in and more of what the card is in the slab. Because you do have a lot of really cool modern cards. And, if there's a really rare card that happens to be in a BGS slab or a SGC or PS, I don't know if people are going to really care if it's rare and it's scarce. So I mean, it's going to be really interesting. But you're right. I mean, like the amount of cards that are getting graded now, it far exceeds, what it was, the last few years far exceed what we've seen decades previous to it.
And you know what, from not to take this off in a completely different direction, but one thing that scares me is thinking about the amount of millions and millions and millions of cards that have gotten slabbed. Millions, right? I mean, millions, over 100 million slabs out there. How many of these plastic slabs are going to end up in the ocean?
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, are they recyclable? These are we going to be recycling all of our slabs?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think these slabs are made so that really they're impossible to break, or supposedly, you know what I mean, unless you really take a tool to it. So something's telling me that it's not made from reusable or recyclable materials. And personally, I would like to see a push for that moving forward. I don't know how that works.
That's a good point.
But
I think too, the future of dollar boxes is going to be slab boxes, where I know you see that now where it's like $5, $10 slabs, but I think you could very well see $1 slab boxes, in 10 years, 20 years down the road, if it keeps up at this pace.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so when I know a couple weeks ago, I think it was episode 1 that we did, I referred to my roundtables I was doing a couple months ago, and I did a high-end roundtable conversation with some high-end guys. Okay, I'm talking Jason Kuntz and Eric Myers. I had them on the roundtable, and Eric Myers is at Halo Hustle, or I don't know how it's pronounced, but Halo Hustle on Instagram, and he actually works for PWCC and whatnot, and he handles like these $1 million accounts. Like he handles the whales, the guys that are putting 40 million into the card market kind of thing. And he said that when he's talking to these individuals, obviously there's no guarantees about, no one has a crystal ball, right? So this entire conversation that you and I are having, we don't have a crystal ball. We're not trying to act like we can predict the future or predict what the value or price of cards will be, should be, could be, would be, whatever. But when Eric was on my show, he said, and I'm paraphrasing once again, which I'm really good at doing, I guess, is like taking other people's words and trying to. So he said that when he's dealing with these whales, like, we need that money in this hobby. So he never wants to steer these people down the wrong road. So, but a lot of these whales, they do want to get in early, like with stocks. They want to get in early on players and hopefully, but I think prospecting is too risky. So he says, when you look back at the 50s and 60s, right, you have like your top 5. You have Mantle, Mays, Aaron, Jackie Robinson. You have guys like that, right? He said, so looking back on it, from the 90s and 2000, who do you think are going to be the top 5 players that are revered, say 10 to 30 years from now? And he listed off a couple that make sense. Who would you say? If give me 2 names right now that from the 90s and 2000s that you think are going to just be highly collectible.
For baseball. I would say Barry Bonds and Ken Griffey Jr. And I don't know the baseball market, so I'm just literally throwing out, I went more 90s there because 2000s could be anybody. But Griffey's already got a pretty heavy collector base, and I don't think that changes. And then with Bonds, not to say he has a big collector base, but I think that his legend grows over time. I'm speculating that PEDs are going to be, there's going to be a more lax look at PEDs over time. Wow. That's a big speculation, though, in baseball.
Well, I think in most sports it happens and no one bats an eye, but for some reason baseball, and I can see why. I don't want PEDs really in any sports, but at the same time, I want people to be playing at their absolute highest level. So it's like I want to have my cake and eat it too, right? But he threw out 2 names. He threw out 5 names, actually. I'm just going to name 2 who I've really been thinking about, and I actually have started to pick up a few of their cards just after the conversation, because it's like, when we're making content and we're talking to people, our wheels are always spinning. And when we get information, it's like, yes, I want to start buying him now, and it's like, but the two names that he threw out, which seem to be no brainers when I say them, are Jeter and Ichiro.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Jeter was one that should have been on the, yeah. Yeah.
Jeter, I mean, Jeter's like the Mickey Mantle of, King of New York for years, won a ton of World Series championships, has over 3,000 hits, is an over 300 career batting average for a career, has many iconic moments that we can think of right now. Him diving in the stands, the flip pitch to home plate, tagging out Giambi, crossing home. I just think about him jumping up from his shortstop position as Mariano throws the final pitch of a World Series. Like, just so many iconic moments. So yeah, it's like when you're talking like high end kind of stuff, like, yeah, it does make sense that they would probably be the guys, right? But the thing is, when you look back over time, Jackie Robinson only has one rookie card. Now, arguably, he had a 47 card, but that wasn't pack pullable. He had a 48 Leaf. Then he had a 49 Bowman. So it's like, but really, they only had a handful of cards, all these players from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Whereas I saw a statistic on Twitter recently, and I'm going to give credit to the gentleman that said it, but also because if it's not fully true, I want someone to blame. And I think both you guys, people probably know him. On Twitter, he's the collectibles guru, and his name is Eric Whiteback.
Yeah.
And he posted something that said Trevor Lawrence has over 1,100 different one-of-one rookie cards.
Yeah, I saw that too. It's mind-blowing.
So he's not saying he has over 1,100 rookie cards. He's saying one-of-one rookie cards.
Well, question. So, if we go back to just kind of the conversation about 50s, 60s baseball, there's only one rookie card. They are expensive, but is it just that they're that? Because if you think about player performance, legacy, is it just that they're that expensive? Mostly, and I understand they're legends a lot of times, but is it mostly because there's just such a deep lack of supply? Like, if you took all the money that's in like 50s baseball, and then you compare it to all the money that's into the 1,100, the 1,100, like the Trevor Lawrence market. Like, what is the comparison there? Is there more money in the Trevor Lawrence, the Trevor Lawrence market than there is the Jackie Robinson market? Because he only has like 9 cards, right? I think Jackie Robinson only has like 9 or 10 cards total.
Yeah, and as far as pack pullable, yeah, even maybe less than 9, because you're talking about like the Bond bread. The bread company, being one of them, the exhibits. So yeah, 9 tops. Yeah.
So that's just kind of wild to think about. Jackie Robinson has 10. Like Trevor Lawrence might have 10 different Prism cards, like, let alone it's just insane to think about that.
So when we think about, like collecting in today, right? Like, will these cards have true value in the future? And I think one thing that scares me is that I still to this day feel like Panini has not been fully transparent about print runs. We have no idea. Now, don't get me wrong. And I've been someone that I kind of call this out in a way. I've tried not to really be negative, and I'm not a hobby watchdog or anything, but like this manufactured rarity, right. Like out of 5, out of 10, out of 25, out of 50, out of 75, out of 99, out of 149, out of 199, out of 250. And it's like, I get that it gives people incentive to like chase the rainbow and stuff, but are these cards going to have value in the future? That's a question. Are they going to have value in the future? I don't know.
Well, it just speaks to well, we know that these videos will be coming these will be hobby content videos. And what those videos will be is some of these quarterbacks, let's just use Zach Wilson. Let's just pull him out because he's a fairly new quarterback, and maybe he resurrects his career somewhere else. But he has a lot of rookie cards, I would guess. I don't have the exact number, but if he was printed over the last year or so. I mean, what if nothing ever happens again with him? Like, what if he never starts an NFL game? And then think about just the number of cards. Like, where are those going to go? I mean, it's no different
in those dollar slab boxes you were talking about.
Yeah, and there might be some monster Zach Wilson card. There might be like a logo man for $50 or something.
Yeah, NFL Shield. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there might be. That might be what the 5 years, 10 years down the road looks like.
So when you hear that Trevor Lawrence statistic, right? And I think I had heard a different one. And please, guys, in the comments, if you guys have these exact stat numbers, or if I'm getting these numbers wrong or anything like that, please clarify it in the comment section below, because this is really just kind of food for thought. But I think I had heard something like Trevor Lawrence has over 5,000 different rookie cards in general, or something like that. So, but regardless, even if I'm a couple thousand off, regardless, on a scale of 1 through 10 for you, Dustin, on a scale of 1 through 10, how alarming is that these companies are printing so many different rookie cards?
I think it just confirms to me that this newer product or these players are solely, for me anyway, short-term plays if I get into them. So it is literally like buying in the off season, moving them, as the season, right before the season starts or something. And I've done a little bit of that on COMC and I'm not buying huge cards, but I might be buying $5 Trevor Lawrence cards and looking to sell them for $8, or $10, or something like that. It just confirms to me, it kind of reminds me of 1992, except on steroids, really, like Shaq rookie cards, Fleer Ultra, except nowhere near as many different cards. But I'm just talking about from like a print run standpoint, like Shaq is an all-time player. But
all time.
But which rookie card, it's like, but he doesn't have anything that's really worth a lot of money, because that was just during the era where they were printing like crazy. So, I think that there has to be kind of an acceptance that maybe we might have like generational players that come out of the next few years, but if they don't get some sort of print run control, then it won't matter, and then it just, again, it ups the ante for on the risk side. The one thing I did, so I really like Joe Burrow. I went and bought some 2020 retail boxes of Prism football, just for fun, just as like a buy, not to rip it. I don't rip any sort of new product, but I was like, okay, well, that 2020 set of Prism has Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and Justin Jefferson. I know that he's just a positional player, but you've got some good like positional players in there too. So for me, as opposed to buying a random Burrow card or a Herbert card, I was like, you know what? I'll just look to see if I see any value in the sealed product, because if these guys continue on the trajectory and maybe they want to, they win a Super Bowl or something, then we see what's happening in the market with breaking and breakers, and that product is just going to continue to get opened and opened and opened. And so for me personally, as opposed to buying singles, I'll look to see if there's any sort of what I feel is a good price point on sealed product and just sit on that and see what happens. If we're just looking at it from strictly a money standpoint.
What's crazy is I feel like you and I have very similar beliefs, same demeanor. There's so many things that line up with us, but I feel like we're so different when it comes to this hobby. It's crazy. I've had multiple people approach me with what felt like pretty good opportunities to be like, listen, and they kind of explained it out to me, and they're like, I think we should probably invest in like a couple cases of wax from this year, because you see what like 2017 wax goes for with Patrick Mahomes and stuff. And I'm like, sure, I'm all set. Like, I don't rip wax. Even as a kid, I didn't rip wax. I don't rip wax now. I don't get into breaks. I don't do razzes. I am a singles buyer, or I'll buy a lot, or I'll buy a collection or something like that. But other than that, I mean, I buy strictly singles. I feel like wax is too risky. You know, I had a good friend and a prominent prominent show promoter on the East Coast. He had approached me last year and said, "Hey man, I'm actually buying up some, like, basically like not even cases, but like pallets of like this WWE Prism. Have you seen what these prices are doing, man? They are through the roof. This is going to be a huge collector's item because this is going to be WWE's like inaugural Prism year." And boxes, like I had mentioned a few weeks ago in a prior episode with us, those prices, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments again, but those dropped like 80 to 90%. And I'm like, thank God I did not invest in those.
Well, and I think too, just like with singles, with sealed product, you have to be really careful. To clarify, I was buying $80 retail blasters of 2020 Prism.
Yeah.
Hobby box is whole different ball game, as far as, and I bought a couple of the mega boxes that are a couple $100, but dropping $1,000 on a hobby box. No, I mean, I'm not, even though maybe down the road that holds up and it's, it's a better value or more, return or whatever. I decided it'd be fun just to hold on to some lower price. Yeah. No, so I want to make that clear. Because I'm not that's really the only sealed product that I've got. Outside of, I've got a couple of Stranger Things hobby boxes, which are, again, not breaking the bank on that stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. And listen, if I can never knock someone for wanting to like diversify a little bit, right? So it's like you have your sports cards, you have your Stranger Things, you have a couple boxes of what are definitely going to be in demand at some point boxes. All it takes is that little bit of like, could I pull a Prism Gold Herbert out of this box?
Right.
Or Burrow, that's all it takes. But so real quick, because we're already coming up on 25 minutes before we wrap up, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit here and just talk about National real quick, because so you went to National in Rosemont, Illinois. That was the first one you went to, right?
That was the first one, and then last year in Atlantic City.
Listen, you and I are on the same exact page. First one I went to was Chicago. I went to AC as well, and I'm going back to Chicago this year. So, for you, do you think it's important for someone in the hobby knowing what the financial cost is, right? It's not like, it's a free trip, or it's not like it's down the road. Is it important for someone to fly out to Chicago or drive or whatever the case and go to National?
So I think that if we're just looking at the hobby as a whole, there's probably a lot of really casual collectors, people that might buy, a few cards here and there, or, new draft class or something, and they're excited about a particular player. They're not deep into it. For someone that's just very casual collecting, not, mega interested, then I would say then maybe not. Maybe it's not. But I think if you're somebody, though, to where it really is, fairly daily or every other day, it's something that you think about and do as your main hobby. I think the experience, even just trying it out one time and seeing how it goes, the experience is great, because it is really like Disney World for cards. It's the largest venue as far as inventory goes, every dealer really under the sun. Well, I shouldn't say every, there's a lot of regionals and different people that can't get into it, but and then you have not just the dealers, but you've got massive trade nights, so you have people that from all walks of life that are there. If you happen to be making content, or if you watch content, a lot of times you can meet the content creators, or if you're thinking about starting a channel, then it's like, hey, you could pick their brain. Everyone's very accessible. I don't know. I mean, even, Jeff Wilson, you can walk right up to Jeff Wilson. I would say he's probably the most, that he's got the largest channel as far as people just recognizing his face. Everyone's pretty approachable. So, it's just a good time, I think, even just to try it out once. Maybe it's not an annual thing for you, but if you're someone that's in the hobby and enjoys it, I think it's definitely a try it out, see how it goes.
Yeah. And I can remember, you probably didn't see me, but I saw you at National and AC, but you were, I couldn't even get close to you. You're surrounded by bodyguards. So some people,
most people are accessible. I'm not one of those people. So, no.
no, listen, man.
We're not to that point. We're not to that point yet. But hey, you never know. Sports card hobby grows, and we might be, having personal security. You never know.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with most of what you said, and I could remember because I'm in Connecticut here, and Atlantic City was about a 3.5 hour drive, and I can remember talking to people locally, and I think there are a lot of people. This is it's a tough space to establish a brand in. I really feel like it is, like, even though I feel like the hobby's open, it's accepting, everyone's for the most part supportive of each other with cards. I feel like most people that I see, if it don't apply, let it fly. But I feel like probably at least half the people in the hobby, they're branding themselves and trying to push their brand, right? Like, you'll see someone who was a collector and now all of a sudden they have a custom logo, kind of thing, and all of a sudden now they have their name and they're flashing their name and they're getting stickers made and stuff. And I can remember talking to local people in Connecticut that are trying to push their brand, or trying to establish themselves. And I said, listen, my advice would be, if it's feasible for you, if it is feasible for you and you have a brand you're trying to push, I think it is very important to go to national.
Yeah. And yes, I agree with that.
From a brand standpoint, I think it absolutely can help you solidify yourself as, I'm in this space. And I'm not saying that everyone that goes to national, their brand is going to explode, but you got to realize national is only 1 week of the year. And if you are someone that is either putting out content or you have a brand and you can reference being at national and you can reference past nationals that you've gone to, I think that gives you a little bit more credibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's great networking. You'll run into people at the show. There's different events that are going on during that week that you can join up and meet people. So yeah, I mean, even just from, sure, the cards are amazing, but then you also have a lot of networking opportunities. Absolutely.
Yeah. And shameless plug, and I think you're going to be there as well, Dustin. So myself and my group of friends that we have in the hobby, we call ourselves the Wolf Pack, and I'm someone that is just always trying to tell people to find your wolf pack. Find your wolf pack. And I think that's why I came in the hobby in 2010 and got out after a few months. Came back in 2013, got out after a few months. I didn't have a wolf pack. I didn't have a single friend I knew that collected or was doing memorabilia or anything. So I really had no reason to stick around once I had scratched that itch. But find your wolf pack. And so the wolf pack, we are putting on a trade night Friday night, which is directly across the street from the National. Literally directly across the street. All you got to do is cross the street and you're there. So hopefully we're going to be seeing everyone there Friday night. It's going to be like cash bar, live DJ. It's going to be off the hook. Dustin is going to be a featured guest there. We're going to be we're going to be holding them up on chairs.
I was just going to say, I'm going to be carried in, right, Rob?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So hopefully you and the wife are going to be able to make it, Dustin, because it's definitely going to be a good time. But yeah, I think national is something that is very important. And I look at it as being the hobby new year. I feel like, personally, I feel like so much changes at national. And if you want to know what direction the hobby is going in, like, you see that at national, you see what's in demand at national, and you kind of gauge things. A lot of people call it the hobby Super Bowl. I prefer to it as the hobby New Year. But just remember, people call it national, not nationals with an S. If you say it with an S, you'll sound like a newbie. And even if people don't correct you, they're going to be like, this guy. So
companies also use it to do promos around the national. So if you go there, you'll get a lot of free garb, and there's giveaways. And I mean, there's a lot of and then there's also company announcements. Oh, we're making this change. We're adding this feature. So yeah, there's always a lot going on. I agree.
You know what would be awesome as sports card dad for your brand? If you made up business cards and on the back of it, there was a different dad joke.
That's a good one. That's a good idea.
Right? And you had a dad joke on the back of your sports card dad business card.
I've been thinking about random things to do on Instagram, like, videos with my dog, and like just random things.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hey, this is what's great. So it's your creative outlet. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, Dustin, man, this has been a pleasure. We knocked out 3 straight weeks of episodes, 3 episodes, just really kind of, I don't know if it was like Hobby 101 or it was Hobby like 201 or, I don't know what you would call it, but I feel like we were able to kind of touch on the basics, but do a deep dive and try to give a different, sincere perspective on things.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing is there, a lot of these topics are similar topics you see covered around the hobby, but just trying to take a little bit of a deeper or just a different angle on it. Another angle is always good.
Yeah. So guys, definitely hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Leave the comments. I'll say it for both of our channels. Definitely hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Give us a follow. I'm on Instagram at Sports Card Therapist and on Twitter at card_therapist. And Dustin, what are your links?
Yeah, I'm just the Sports Card Dad on Twitter, and then I'm at Sports Card Dad on IG.
Perfect. Well, Dustin, man, listen, this has been a pleasure. We have no idea what the future holds. We don't know if this is it. We don't know if this is the final episode we do, or we don't know if it's something that we pick up on in the future, but leaving it open-ended is pretty cool, man. And I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure being able to collab with you these last 3 weeks. And your content is absolutely excellent. And, just thank you for everything that you do for the hobby.
Oh, I appreciate that, Rob. Yeah, same to you. And if anything, I think we've got the name nailed down with Dinged Corners. Nothing's going to touch that.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. And everyone, thank you so much for listening. It was a pleasure. Don't forget, take care of yourselves and your collection. Dustin, have a good one, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.